So, Adrian, what an engaging leader, loves what he does. He's bloomed where he's planted, so many great little tidbits about mental health and his staff. And so I'm curious, what were some of your big takeaways?
Well, first off, just a general observation. You have somebody like Scott who runs 18,000 person organization. It's interesting that sometimes you meet people like that. The higher up you kind of get in an organization, the more interesting people get.
Right.
Movie buff spends a week and a half at a movie, at a festival. They just have interesting hobbies. They're curious about the world. So just a little takeaway there for all of us is, if you want to be successful, be more curious in life like Scott. So I just thought, first off, let's talk, trauma from the pandemic. He says, look, his hospitals, yeah, they're full, but it's more than that. Is we lost a lot of our connections. We've talked about this during the pandemic. So mental health professionals are serving that role where normally you would just put your problem out to your friends as you're having, breakfast with friends or dinners, which we stopped doing during COVID, which we kind of need to start again.
Yeah. I was just so impressed with his commitment to communication. Magazines, town halls, podcasts, newsletters, the texting service that he gave away his mobile phone number, that he wanted to be connected, to your point, those human connections. Talked
Mhm.
about the town hall where he came in and it was about listening, and he had all these points he wanted to make, and then he sat back and listened. It was the best town hall they'd ever had. um, I also appreciated when he said, look, for himself, continue to have a life, you
Yeah,
know, do
yeah,
something above and beyond. If your life is just work, it's all deadlines and stress
yeah.
and so on. Be curious, go to movies, pick up a habit, open a bar in your basement. I mean, he really had fun, and his family. You could tell that was very important to him. His
well,
children and his grandchildren.
Well, that was an interesting story about doing 11 and a half hours of hostage negotiation.
Yeah,
And who's the first person you call? Well, it's your family. And the point was there, after trauma, we need stability. Well, and coming back to the workplace, this is anxiety at work. We can be more of the stability for our people if there is trauma, which there's going to be outside in their lives. So I just thought that was really interesting. That talk about trauma that Scott talked about. Look, everybody's going through this right now, especially younger people who can't get away from it on their phones, etc. Mass shootings, the pandemic, politics. People carry trauma with them, and that we've got to be more sensitive than ever before to those around us. Is somebody struggling?
absolutely. His podcast, Observations from Life, something he was curious about, and now is, getting out there and doing a bunch of stuff. Scott Shacklin spent a whole day with he and his leadership team. Let me tell you something. You can tell when people admire and want to be like their leader, and his people admire and really care for Scott as much as he
Yeah.
cares for them. Not surprisingly, when you get a leader that cares that much, that it would be reciprocated. Scott Shacklin, one of our more interesting leaders that we've ever encountered. Wouldn't you
Isn't it
agree?
interesting that you went out and spoke to the leaders of a group of psychiatric hospitals? Recently did that. Spoke to another national chain of psychiatric hospitals. Here we are going out and speaking to all these psychiatric professionals. But I think it's interesting. They're looking for different ways and different perspectives as well, seeing us come in with a business perspective and a little bit of the psychology we talk about. And, it's interesting. We're all looking for new ideas, no matter where we are.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up another great podcast, we always want to give thanks to our producer, Brent Klein, who takes all the stuff that we send him and makes it audible and interesting, to Christy Lawrence, who helps find our amazing guests, and of course, to all of you that listen in. If you like the podcast, please share it. We'd love to visit our website, thecultureworks.com, for some free resources to help you and your team and your culture thrive.
And we love speaking to audiences around the world, like Chester did for Scott's group, virtually or in person, on the topics of wellness, culture, teamwork, resilience. So give us a call. We'd love to talk to you about your event. And this has been another fun podcast. Chester, I'm going to give you the last word this time.
Thank you. Well, buy our books, as Adrian said, and we have a new book. One of our strategies is around gratitude. We just published The Gratitude Habit. Go to our website, thecultureworks.com, and order your book now. It's 90 Days to a More Grateful Life. And on that, grateful for you, as always, Adrian, and for all of the people that listen. Have a great week, and we'll see you again in 7. Cheers.